2019. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Good morning, everyone. We're calling the roll for the Tuesday, February 19th Board of Control meeting. We have Nan Baker. Here. Joe Nani serving as an alternate for Dale Miller. Here. Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Dan Brady. Here. Mike Dever. Here. Angie Rich serving as an alternate for Dennis Kennedy. Here. Maggie Keenan serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
And Lenore Lockett.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Reviewing the minutes from February 11th, 2019. Are there any corrections? If not, I move to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Is there any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Okay. Are there any tabled items?
No tabled items.
Okay, please read the first item.
Item number BC 2019-124, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment, subsidiary number 1, to a contract with Kokosing Construction Company, Inc. for the resurfacing of Wallings Road from Broadview Road to the Broadview Heights East Corporation line in the city of Broadview Heights for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $74,703.63.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This first item is requesting amendment with Kokosing. It was for the resurfacing of Wallings Road. It's an additional funds not to exceed $74,703.63.
Okay, I move to approve this item. Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, this item is approved. Next item.
2019-125, Department of Development, recommending an award on requisition 44684 and enter into a contract with Cleveland State University in the amount not to exceed $50,000 for economic research and advice services in connection with the 5-year economic development plan, and it's for the period February 25th, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
I'm with the Development Department. I think most of you know the charter calls for a 5-year economic development plan that actually gets updated every year. We have to have the update done by June 1. This contract will provide data to the Economic Development Commission to help advise on any changes that they may want to consider for the current version of the plan. Specifically last year, they did kind of a deep dive into these 8 different metrics that are called out in the plan. And this year they're going to kind of further refine that to kind of decide whether or not 8 is really the right number, whether they really need to be digging into all those 8 issues. So that's a big part of what they're going to be doing for us this year.
Questions? Okay.
So as a member of the Economic Development Committee, I know we had a 5-year plan, and that was, I thought, narrowed to 3 specific industries.
If I may, Councilman, I think you're confusing things. You've got a couple different things going on here. Those are the different sectors that we're going to focus on through the Workforce Development Division.
All right.
The 5-year plan is an item that's actually called out in the charter that has specific things that the county should be focusing on as a county, not just the Economic Development, not just the Workforce Division of the Economic Development Department.
Overall.
Right. It's a much bigger document, much bigger picture document than those 3 sectors we're going to be focusing on with the partnerships, the sector partnerships.
If I may, so do you anticipate that hiring Cleveland State will be the end-all of what it is that you'll need in order to sharpen your scope as to what it is that you would like to focus?
Chairman of the Council, and I think for this year, but as I said, the plan has to get updated every year per the charter. So I would imagine that the Commission is going to ask for additional data every year to figure out what direction it kind of needs to tweak the document in.
And within your existing economic development team, you don't have the resources within your own to know what direction or gathering of information or any of those type of things that you're looking for?
No, Councilman, we don't. They're able to kind of pull in all this extra data that we don't have access to, the different databases and stuff that they, through the college, can gather that we don't have access to.
You don't? Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? Or I make a motion to approve. All those in favor?
Need a
Oh, is there a
second.
second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Items approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Next item, BC 2019-126, to Sheriff's Department, submitting an amendment to a contract with Educator Medical Staffing LLP for temporary nursing services, and it's for the period September 17, 2018 through December 31st, 2019, to change the terms effective February 19th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $200,000.
Good morning, Donna Cleo, Sheriff's Fiscal Manager. Again, looking to amend the Educator contract. This time, we would like to, what we've seen happening is that a lot of the Educator nurses were exhausting their 40-hour work week, so they're willing to come back and do over 40 hours, but they want to get paid time and a half. So we're amending for that, but while I'm at it, I'm throwing more funds into the contract because these invoices are exceeding what our original expectations were.
Any questions?
Have you noticed any of the county nurses leaving recently, or have they stayed pretty consistent?
I talked to one of the Metro Health employees, and she had told me that what they're seeing right now is an increased call-offs. But as for leaving, I do know that we've lost a couple since the whole Metro Health announcement. I know we've lost a couple. I don't have that exact number. I can get that for you, but they are saying they're seeing an increase in call-offs. So, but as for retention, I don't know that, but I'll get that for you today. I'll find out how many have left this year so far.
And then, do you know approximately how many overtime hours per week they are working above the 40 hours, or do you not have that?
I don't have that with me, but I can get that also. So you want to know how many hours over 40 hours that were, and my understanding is right now, I don't think they were working much over 40 because they weren't willing to. So what they will be working over 40, I will find that out for you.
I'm just concerned that the 200,000 might not last that long.
Well, we still do have some money in there, and to be honest with you, you're going to see another contract for Alliance Healthcare Services coming down the pike right behind this probably next week. That's with a second vendor because we want to make sure we're pretty much exhausting Educare at this time. So we want to have a second vendor in place, and Alliance is the one that had won the mission criticals last year. So we're going to now have a contract with them, and that's going to be for $500,000 just to make sure we have enough nurses.
And do you know approximately how many nurses Educare Medical Staffing is giving us on a regular basis?
On a regular basis, if I'm last I had heard, it was somewhere around like it could be anywhere upwards of like I thought they said it was 5 to 6 RNs a day and maybe something like 7 to 10 LPNs a day. But I will, you know what, I'll get you all the answers, all three of those. I don't want to say something out of context, so I'll get you the answer to all three of those so you can get exact numbers. But JL Medical would have those numbers, not me.
Okay. And I know you gave us the data a couple months ago or whatever on that, but it's just helpful to know. Thank you.
Right, and I think it has changed probably. Okay. So I'll get that today for you and I'll shoot you an email.
Thanks, Don.
Any other questions? Okay, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Any
you.
Opposed? Okay, this item's approved. Next item.
The next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2019-127, Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 44409, which will result in an award recommendation to Independence Office and Business Supply Co., Inc., in the amount not to exceed $6,481 for the purchase of 24 chairs for protective services officers in various county buildings. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Lightly Lathan, Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department is requesting an RFP exemption which will result in award to Independence Office and Business Supply. The exemption is required in order to pay the invoice for this vendor for chairs purchased for our protective service officers. Chairs were purchased through the county's, they were supposed to be purchased through our county supplier, WB Mason, but the individual purchased and went out for additional quotes to get a lower bid, and Independence was the lower bidder, and so that's who they purchased the chairs through. And so now we're backtracking in order to pay the invoice.
Are there any questions?
One. So just so we're clear, there was a competitive bidding on this?
Yes.
So why is
But-
this RFP
Because
exemption?
the chair, because originally the chairs, the individual purchased them, they got the 3 quotes.
Right,
But when it originally was requested, they should have gone through our supplier, and they did not. And so in order for we had to backtrack and go put it in by speed and go through the process. We didn't go through the process in order to select Independence Business Supply, even though they did get the 3 quotes in advance.
okay.
Would it be possible for you to send us the 3 quotes
Yes.
that were received?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm still just a little confused of why the RFP exemption is needed. I understand what you're saying, but if we bid this out,
We did it after the fact. The chairs had already been purchased or procured. She had already went through Independence and ordered the chairs. By the time it came to my desk, and I realized what had happened.
Yeah, they placed the order.
Cheryl,
and then-
introduce yourself.
Oh, Cheryl Kinzig, Officer Procurement and Diversity. The Sheriff's Department, another person placed the order prior to giving the paperwork to Lylea. And then Lylea went ahead and bid it out in buy speed after the chairs were already ordered. Per our procedures, you have to get 3 quotes, otherwise you have to do a second effort. Well, by the time the second effort was done, they had already got the chairs, received the chairs. So there was miscommunication in the Sheriff's Department, thinking they can buy these on the WB Mason contract, but we're not allowed to buy chairs from there. So somebody went ahead and called a couple vendors and got pricing. Thank goodness the pricing we supposedly got was less than what the buy speed bids came in.
That was the next question.
Cheryl, I'm still a little, like, so an employee went out and bought something without the authority to buy something.
Well, no, she had authority to purchase chairs, but when the order went to her, it should have gone through WB Mason, which we thought that she can just order them because that's the county's contracted vendor. But she took it a step further and then went out and got 3 quotes trying to get a lower price than WB Mason.
Right, I understand, but I guess when I say authority, I mean like the Board of Control or
Oh, I'm
council
sorry.
approval, that somebody went and bought stuff for more than $500 without the proper authority to say, okay. And then now this body is in a position where we really can't say no because we have probably been using those chairs and they were already delivered without the proper authority. And it's not like this was like an emergency purchase or anything like that. So that's where, and I understand it's not, so it was, it was miscommunication outside of your responsibilities, but again, and we talk about this sometimes, but that this body now is really in a position of, it has to say yes. We don't really have any flexibility or control over how we do this because we already have these chairs and we're now asking for an RFP exemption after they were already delivered.
And the Sheriff's Office did have some communication with our office supply individual in OPD, and she had informed them that anything over $500, they have to do some kind of process. But they just went ahead and did their own process without going through the proper channels. And fiscal office no longer pays, and they've been aware of this for some time, that they can't make purchases on office vouchers and they just continue to pay and pay. So this is just one of those scenarios that we've been trying to communicate that to the Sheriff's Department. And I don't know how many people actually do these purchases in the Sheriff's Department besides Lylea, Laura, and Allison. I don't know of anybody else that is assigned these tasks. Because I don't deal with anybody but 3 individuals.
Laura Sims, Sheriff's Office, Business Administrator. You're right. It was a mistake, and we have dealt with it and have made sure that it won't happen again. Okay? Because we, the person who did this, they were actually trying to go above and beyond and get a better price and thought that they were doing their due diligence, and we had to come back and say, whoa, you overstepped, and now here we are, and we have addressed it. It won't happen again. Okay?
I mean, the one good thing is it is a cheaper price than
Yes.
what you got through buy speed, so that's a positive, but It just puts the Board of Control in that position.
You're right, and we apologize for that. Okay. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I move to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The item's approved.
Next item, BC 2019-128, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 43706 and enter into a contract with Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center in the amount not to exceed $136,237.20 for the Latina Domestic Violence Project in connection with the fiscal year 2018 Stop Violence Against Women Act Block Grant, and it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. And the county receives a block grant from the state for the Violence Against Women Act, and the grant funds local projects that strengthen effective law enforcement and prosecution strategies and services to combat crimes against women. We received an alternate procurement for all of these grants awards. You may recall last summer we came and talked to you and explained our processes, that we issue a notice of solicitation informing the community that this funding is available. They submit their applications, and then their applications are reviewed by a committee who then makes recommendations to the state to fund these various projects. So the next couple of items are going to follow under that format. And this is there's actually going to be 7 awards under VAWA. Today we're bringing 5 of them to you. One of them was in the Law Department. It'll be coming probably in a week or 2. And then we just received the City of Cleveland's 3rd award, and that's going to be making its way through. But in the case of this contract, the Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center, they actually serve Spanish-speaking victims of domestic abuse and their families.
Any questions?
Go ahead. Yes.
Just a quick one. We've had, I don't know, what is it, 90 days into this contract already?
Correct.
And it's only for a year.
Correct.
Is there a reason why why this contract is already 90 days into effect?
Unfortunately, and this is something that we run into every year, and I actually had to explain during the alternate procurement, this is actually earlier than we got them to you last year. Last year you didn't see this until April 30th. The challenge is that we cannot actually we can't send the contracts through until we have an index. We can't get an index or until the money's in place. We can't do that until this body accepts the award. And the awards actually typically happen even before, sometimes the awards will happen after the performance period even starts. In this particular case, that wasn't the case. We were able to get the money in place, I think by the end of December, and then get these contracts out and through.
Just wanted to follow up on this item. This might already be happening, but we've had a lot of interactions over the past year with the Spanish American Committee on Council, and they have some social services components to what they do there, and it'd be great if they're not already aware of the services in this contract.
If they're not, we'll make sure that.
Right, I can get you the contact info over there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I don't know if we can do this, but if we want to maybe take all 5 since they're all one item, just different funding sources.
Andrea?
There are different funding sources and requisition numbers.
So no.
Oh, okay, Andrea.
Okay, I move to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2019-129, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 43702 and enter into an agreement with the City of Cleveland, Department of Public Safety Law Enforcement Division, in the amount not to exceed $96,602.95 for staffing for 2 Cleveland police detectives to provide investigation services for the Cleveland Domestic Violence Project in connection with the fiscal year 2018 Stop Violence Against Women Act Block Grant for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
This one, as it says, is for 2 detectives who specialize in investigating domestic violence cases. City of Cleveland's actually been funded for this since 2008.
Are there any questions? Okay. I move to approve the item. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item's approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2019-130, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 43704 and enter into an agreement with City of Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $43,864.61 for the provision of a sexual assault advocate to assist victims with crisis intervention and referral services in connection with the fiscal year 2018 Stop Violence Against Women Act Block Grant. And again, it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
This contract will pay for a full-time victim advocate from the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center to be embedded with the Cleveland Police Department.
Any questions?
I believe this is an ongoing. We already have someone there.
That is correct. This has been ongoing since 2014.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Items approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2019-131, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 43707 and enter into a contract with Jewish Family Services Association of Cleveland, Ohio, in the amount not to exceed $34,258.83 for the Domestic Violence Services Project, and it's in connection with the fiscal year 2018 Stop Violence Against Women Act Block Grant, and it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
The Jewish Family Services Association, they work with adult victims of domestic violence who have limited language proficiency and adults with special needs.
Any questions? I move to approve the item. Is there a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Items approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2019-132, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 43701 and enter into an agreement with City of Bedford in the amount not to exceed $28,093.51. And it's for staffing of a domestic violence court liaison for the Domestic Violence Victims Program in connection with the fiscal year 2018 Stop Violence Against Women Act Block Grant for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
This contract pays for a victim advocate for intimate partner violence victims whose perpetrators have cases appearing before the Bedford Court.
Any questions?
Are any of these new, or are they all?
These are all returning providers.
Returning? Thank you.
Any other questions? I move to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items approved. Next item.
Next item, item number BC 2019-133, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 44633 and enter into a contract with Golden Ciphers, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $45,000 for the CISA Rites of Passage program in connection with the fiscal year 2018 Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Disproportionate Minority Contact Title II Formula Grant Program, and it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
The county also receives a block grant. This one is for decreasing the overrepresentation of minority youth in the juvenile justice system. This grant with Golden Ciphers, the Rites of Passage program actually helps develop self-awareness and self-enlightenment. They also do group therapy and have a mentorship program, and then they also do employment training.
Any questions? I move to approve the item. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items approved.
Next item, BC 2019-134, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 44281 and enter into a contract with Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, in the amount not to exceed $24,000 for the Coordinated Approach to Low-Risk Misdemeanors, CALM project, in connection with the fiscal year 2018 Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Disproportionate Minority Contact Title II Formula Grant Program, and it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
The Juvenile Courts Calm Project actually provides respite and mental health services to at-risk minority youth. It's specifically to divert misdemeanor youth who are accused of domestic violence to non-court facilities.
Any questions? I move to approve the item. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items approved.
Thank you.
Next item?
We're moving on to the consent agenda, item numbers BC 2019-135 through 138.
Are there any questions?
I have one. On the, I was just curious, I don't know if someone's here, on the travel of, see if I can get a number. It's just the Las Vegas, Nevada. We have 12 public defender office people going. I just wondered what, is that an accredited class? Is there any, I don't know if there's anyone here that can answer why we're sending 12 different people to that. It's a $21,000 expense.
I would explain, and I've done this repeatedly, and we're able to do this at this time.
Introduce yourself, please.
Well, certainly. Mark Stanton, I'm the public defender, at least for today I am. See how this goes. I would indicate that the reason we're sending those folks, that seminar is not provided anyplace else. And even if the Ohio Academy of Criminal Defense Lawyers presented that seminar and we go through this constantly, that would cost more than it would to send these 12 individuals to Las Vegas. But what we try to do, and what we have done here, is all 12 of those lawyers are in a supervisory capacity. We have a supervisor on each floor, which is called a senior attorney, and then we have supervisors of divisions. So specialized court, we have a mental health court supervisor, drug court supervisor, we have the chief trial counsel attending, and then the other senior attorneys on each floor. They're able to do that. They need that training as much or more so than anybody. Coming back to that point, as they come back, they disseminate that to the other 3 attorneys over whom they have supervisory jurisdiction. Most importantly is that we try to interrelate those types of seminars, which we do, with seminars that we place for in-house training and also for the general bar itself. We bring folks in. But it does cut down dramatically on the cost of bringing experts in. If we brought in Drew Feinling, whom I know personally, he's the president of the National Association. Whether I know him personally or not has nothing to do with it. I don't know why the hell I threw that in there. But he's a tremendous trial counsel. And I've had the good fortune to sit on some panels with him. If we brought him in, that would cost as much as to send 2 attorneys out there to receive training on 17 different topics. This covers the entire waterfront of forensic science in America today. And I would only tell you, Councilwoman Baker, you heard me say this before, every one of those attorneys, for a period of 11 to 15 years, had never gone out of state, had never attended any training along these lines. And believe me, we paid for it dearly in the courtroom. The first 8 months I was the public defender and I went around and supervised or tried to evaluate individuals, we were embarrassing ourselves. And the digital forensic age, something is changing every day, every week, every year. The medical examiner's office just completely revamped their DNA analysis. They went to true allele and left the previous methodology that they used, and BCI is going to do so also. You can't catch up to it, but you better attempt to maintain some familiarity with what's going on. I would also indicate there's another item there for Tyson's Corner, Virginia. That's on custody. There is no other training in America other than the American Bar Association that relates to training for custody matters. We handle almost 5,000 custody cases a year. We're sending very few attorneys to that. We're coming back. We are conducting 4 trainings in-house over a 6-week period of time because all 18 of the attorneys out in juvenile have to know how to do custody cases. So we're doing everything we can to keep it in-house, minimize the cost, but the cost of representing individuals and being familiar not only with the entire landscape of forensic evidence, but also matters such as that are really almost arcane type of presentations in custody court. You have to maintain not only familiarity with it, but expertise Some custody cases take a decade.
Yeah,
That's how long they take.
good. Well, I'm glad I asked because that was a very thorough answer, and I appreciate knowing the work that you're doing there and how much this is going to be helping them. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
I'll just note too, Councilwoman, that 42% is paid by the state. So it's not 100% local cost.
Good to know, too. That's not indicated here anywhere, is it?
It's general fund, but the public defender, 42% of their expenses get reimbursed. Revenues to the general fund, so we don't credit it per se, but.
Thought we had that on the, perhaps we did not.
You probably did, but when we list funding source, it's just the fund.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Items approved.
We're moving along to other business. We have one additional item, item number BC 2019-139, Department of Law submitting an alternate procurement process which will result in an award recommendation to an electronic discovery vendor and related legal services in the amount not to exceed $140,000. And it's for temporary attorney services, and it's for the period February 25th, 2019 through February 24th, 2020. And the funding source is the general fund.
Good morning, Jonathan McGorry with the Department of Law. We're here to request an alternative procurement for e-discovery and related legal services to assist the law department in complying with the tight deadlines that we've been given to respond to the grand jury subpoenas that we've received lately. The current deadline is March 1st. And in our initial review of the data being requested, we've gotten a request for roughly 160 gigabytes worth of data that we would need to review to ensure that no protected information under HIPAA, FMLA, any attorney-client privilege information is released. So to assist with that, we would need to bring somebody in promptly. The plan that the law department has in place would be to conduct a phone survey and internet search to find reputable vendors, as well as search the vendors registered with BuySpeed. We would then open up the bidding process ideally tonight if we receive approval today. And we would close that bidding process at 3 p.m. tomorrow. So it would be a short window, but we'd hope to get in bids, review them, select a vendor, get a contract, and we could come back on Monday to have it approved. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions.
Jonathan, can you talk a little bit about the not to exceed amount for $140,000? Because I think the conversations that I was having last week wasn't close to that.
So I can.
Do you want me to?
Sure. Nora Hurley.
Introduce yourself, Nora.
Good morning. I'm Nora Hurley, the interim law director. That $140,000 not to exceed was changed just this morning after speaking to the county prosecutor's office regarding the potential that this would be treated as outside legal counsel fees. And it was suggested to me that I not exceed the statutory salary of the county prosecutor at this time. We are not going to be spending immediately $140,000, but it's just the not to exceed. If we need to come back, that will entail further discussion with the county prosecutor's office.
So as follow-up, Nora, if the lowest bid comes in at $50,000, are you still going to move forward with a not to exceed $140,000 or not to exceed $50,000 contract?
I'll take that. Our hope is, this isn't the first subpoena we've received, so we anticipate if we get further subpoenas for more information that need this type of specialized review, we would like to keep that cap at $140,000. But ideally spend as little of it as possible as needed. But we just want to kind of streamline this process as much as we can.
Oh, okay. Just in terms of a little bit of background, I mean, I think if certain contracts that were up for approval a couple months ago would have went forward, we wouldn't have had this $140,000 threshold, this dollar amount. So, I know the plan a couple months ago was to have different type of outside legal counsel, and we were going to hire them up to the legal threshold that was being requested. So I'm only saying that just because if that contract would have went forward, we wouldn't have had this 140,000. So I'm not looking for a return on comment, but it's just how things play out in the sense of I know how important it is to meet the deadlines with the subpoena. Just this was kind of our point a couple months ago of moving forward with certain contracts and not moving forward with contracts, where here we really need something to meet a deadline for a grand jury subpoena versus maybe some other ideas that we had with previous proposed legal contracts.
If I may, any thought of getting an extension past the March 1st deadline?
There is, in fact, I'm waiting for a phone call back from the Assistant Attorney General today, and I will do so and seek approval for the extension based upon the process that we have to undergo and the reality of concluding adequate review of 166 gigabytes of records.
Okay.
If I could. So Nora, just on process, so this closes tomorrow at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock tomorrow. So the intent is then you have a vendor. Are you then bringing it back on Monday of next week?
Yes.
It seems like we already have a deadline in front of us, and it seems like if they're going through a process now, should we not be giving them the authority to move forward at noon tomorrow or 3 o'clock tomorrow so that they can get started on this? I guess I'm maybe asking the question of.
I think we have the vendor though, so we can't.
But as a mission critical item.
It's not a mission critical item. It's over the threshold for mission critical. It's not a mission critical item.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. This item exceeds the 25,000, so it's not a time-sensitive mission critical. However, the board can give authority if they comply with the process and the board is comfortable as part of the alternate procurement, they can allow them the authority to give a notice to proceed to the vendor. We'll also have to keep in mind, because of the dollar amount, this vendor will need to be a conditional, because if the vendor's not registered with the IG, then they'll need to also complete registration before that award.
Understood. I guess I'm just putting that out there before the board, that obviously we all know the urgency behind this, and if there's a way that we can provide some flexibility to the law department so they can get started instead of waiting on an internal process that we have to move things along. So I open that up for a suggestion.
I'm okay with that. Somebody would have to tell me what to say, though. But I have no problem giving conditional approval for them to move forward.
So what was, without the conditional approval, how were you going to move forward with the process in place and the 3/1 deadline? Were you hoping you would get that extension? Or were you thinking that a week from now you still had enough time to meet the 3/1 deadline? What were you thinking when you were asking for this process?
Well, in asking with this process, really we're relying on the expertise of the vendors to let us know. We will tell them this is our deadline, this is the amount of data we have so far, and they would come back and say, well, you would need X number of attorneys for X number of hours to complete this review by March 1st. If in the time being that we come up with a later deadline, then it might require a fewer number of attorneys, but our intention is always to move forward on Monday, back at this body, getting the approval, and then moving forward, and ideally maybe that later that afternoon, getting the attorneys in here that we could then work with and start the process.
If I may, were you, or are you, in your experience, confident that you could have gotten this done if approval on Monday, a week from today? Where are you in your investigations of how much time it would take given the 160 gigabytes? You must think in some level that you could have gotten it done because you agreed, at least today's request, that you would have waited a week. I know it would make it certainly easier to have that extra time, but I'm just asking, was that a reasonable request to wait a week from now in order to have a vendor give you the deadline assurances?
what you're asking is a question that I wish I had a better answer for you. We do not know the extent of time that it will take. There is a great chance that much of the data, many of the emails that were requested in the grand jury subpoena are in fact duplicative. And we're hoping that we get a software program that will allow us to organize that in a fashion so that the work is not repeated per each email, such as when one of the grand jury recipients was CC'd on something.
Right.
So we will not know to answer that question definitively until we get started in the process.
Okay, thank you.
So to follow up on that, and based on Mike's question, it seems like you need an IT solution first before you can even move forward with this actual. I mean, I believe you guys have an IT solution, but it's actually putting the data through that process.
So for this process, given the tight deadlines we have, we're going to request the vendors provide us some information on the IT solution that they utilize in responding to requests. And then in the background, we are going to work on a full-fledged procurement for that technology for us to have year-round.
For a permanent solution.
I understand. Another follow-up question. You had mentioned that you guys spoke with the prosecutor's office. That leads me to believe they're okay with moving forward with this approach.
We have approval to move forward with this approach up to the statutory amount of the prosecutor's salary.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So once again, I guess, is there, I'm sorry I don't have it clearly laid out for me, but is there a way we can give some type of approval so that if they're working closely with OPD on selecting the vendor so we can get some of the legwork done? There's 5 business days, I believe, between now when they'll close the bids and then the next time this body comes together. March 1st is then the following, I think, 5 days after that. So
Yeah.
it seems pretty logical for us to try and figure out a way to get this thing marching along.
Jonathan, can I ask a question about that? Will you, because a lot of times before this body, a contract is backdated before the approval date. Was your plan to date it, say, Wednesday or Thursday, or would you date it that Monday?
We would date it that Monday because we wouldn't anticipate having any services provided until that Monday.
Okay. I was just wondering if you were going to backdate it. That would get to.
And if I'm also, today is Wednesday, tomorrow is when the deadline would be, which is Thursday at 3.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday at 3.
Today's Tuesday. Oh, see, I missed, okay. So that does give you a couple extra days. All right, thanks.
Is it an option for the board to meet tomorrow to approve whenever they're done with their,
Will they be able?
or the following day? I mean, just instead of giving them blanket authority and also not waiting until Monday? We're all in the building, right? Is that an option?
You probably need to give a proper notice on
Notice
it,
to the public.
which is.
Yeah, we would have to post something today to give notice, 48-hour notice. So
You could post it today, and even if we don't have a meeting, it's no big deal, but out of caution, post it and be ready just in case.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. There's the option of allowing them to give a notice to proceed to the vendor that they select. However, this body does approve the vendor, the amount, and the contract term. So at some point, there will still need to be something on the record for them.
It sounds like that process is more in line with what OPD has done in the past. I don't want to recreate the wheel here and create any new problems that we may not be foreseeing here right now in the moment. So it sounds like from Lenore, if we could get a notice, authority to issue a notice to proceed once a vendor has been selected, then we would still come back on Monday, I understand, and we would have the formal approval for that vendor.
Lenore Lockett, yes, that would just give the law department, in case there's a vendor that is ready and can start Friday, work over the weekend, you would have that authority, and the formal contract would be approved on Monday.
Oh, okay.
That I mean, that's what I would recommend. I think having the contract date start Thursday or Friday, that gives you 3 or 4 extra days.
Okay.
Again, it is, the vendor is going to be working at, basically his or her discretion, because it still has to get approved by Board of Control.
Right.
But based off, I think, the comments you're hearing today, there's not a huge opposition to the service. It's just more, how we procure it. I would recommend going what Lenora was saying and having the contract date start that Thursday or whenever you guys are ready to, have everything, and then have the Monday meeting. So it would, start whatever that day would be.
Appreciate it, okay.
Yeah. This body doesn't always have the luxury of having this discussion before the contract date starts, so that's new.
So, Councilwoman Chair, you have to amend the agenda to incorporate the item first before we approve it.
Okay, so I move to amend the agenda to include this item.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda has been amended, and now we vote to approve.
Yes.
So I move to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no other business at this time, and there's no public comment at this time. So,
Is there a second? Okay.